All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to go over the LA Chargers schedule. I'll give you my early win-loss predictions for them. So let's get into that. So the Chargers, they had a rough year last year. They went 5-12. Brandon Staley ended up losing his job, but they did replace him with Jim Harbaugh. So I think the Chargers, they're heading in the right direction. Now, it's going to be different this year because, they had a lot of changes, particularly when it comes to their pass catchers. There's no more Keenan Allen. There's no more Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, or Gerald Everett as well. But you still got Justin Herbert, and, they got a young receiving core, Joshua Palmer, Quentin Johnson, their second-year wide receiver. They're hoping for big things out of him. They drafted Lane McConkey. They also have DJ Chark as well, who I keep forgetting about, honestly. And then you have the Ravens backfield. And apparently J.K.Dobbins made a diss track for Gus Edwards because now they're both on the Chargers now. So they got the Ravens backfield. So that was something that one of my coworkers sent me, which I thought was I didn't listen to it or anything, but I just thought that was interesting. But they kept most of the guys on defense, or pretty much all the guys on defense. They kept Joey Bosa, they kept Khalil Mack. So and the defense was not very good last year. So I don't know. The Chargers are going to be an interesting team. So this is their schedule right here, and it's not very difficult. I mean, you play the AFC North, but you got the Panthers on the schedule. You got the Broncos twice, the Cardinals. So, I could see, the Chargers being a team that, could be sneaky good, but let's go through the schedule here. So you got the Raiders twice, and they split the season series last year. The Chargers won the first matchup early on in the season. The Raiders, they dropped, what was it, 62 points, 63 points. And that's what ended up getting Brandon Staley fired. Now, Justin Herbert did not play in that game. Easton Stick was playing in that game. So, but yeah, that was not a good game to watch. And especially if, in your spread pool, you pick the Chargers, which that was me. So, now, week 1, they take on the Raiders at home. And I'm going to say the Chargers do get off on the right foot, and they get a win here. So, I think it'll be a competitive game. I'm curious to see who ends up being, and we'll talk about this tomorrow when I do the Raiders schedule. Who is going to be the starting quarterback? Is it going to be Gardner Minshew? Is it going to be Aiden O'Connell? I'm curious to see how that plays out. I mean, I would lean towards Minshew, but who knows? Either way, I'm going to say the Chargers, they get off on the right foot. They get the win there, so I'll give them a win to start off 1-0. Then against the Panthers, I mean, are the Panthers going to be better this year? I mean, I think they'll be a little bit better, but I don't think they're going to be substantially better than they were last year. So I'm going to say the Chargers actually start off 2-0 on the year. Then they take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that game could go either way. I think with the Steelers being at home, I'd lean towards the Steelers. But, again, I could see the Chargers winning that game as well. Because, with the Steelers, they got some question marks, too, at quarterback. I mean, how is Russell Wilson going to be? So I would lean... Right now, I'm leaning towards Pittsburgh, but I could see that being a win for the Chargers as well. With the Chiefs, I mean, I could see them splitting with the Chiefs this year, even though, the Chiefs kind of, always beat the Chargers, even though there have been some epic matchups between these two teams, these two quarterbacks over the years, between Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. So maybe the Chargers get a split. But I'll say the Chiefs win the matchup early on in the season. And then at the Broncos, I mean, I don't think the Broncos are going to be very good. But, it's a divisional game, so maybe the Broncos could get a split. But I'm going to lean towards the Chargers and take them here as well. Then against the Cardinals, I mean, I feel like that game could go either way as well. I feel like the Chargers could win that game. So I'm going to say they could win that. That's a winnable game for them. Then they're home against the Saints. Derek Carr facing a former divisional opponent in the Chargers here. I feel like the Chargers could also win that as well. And it's interesting because then after they play the Browns in Cleveland here, which I'll give the Chargers the loss there, then you got 3 straight home games. You got the Titans, the Bengals, and the Ravens. I think they could beat the Titans, but I'll say they lose back-to-back games to the Bengals and the Ravens. We're going to get the Harbaugh Bowl Week 12. I believe that's a Monday night game. But I'll say they lose those back-to-back games to those AFC North opponents. Then they're at Kirk Cousins Week 13. I feel like that's a winnable game for them. That could go either way. Because if I have them losing here, then they play the Chiefs in Arrowhead. But I did say they could split the season series. So I'm going to say they lose to Kirk Cousins, and then maybe they upset the Chiefs late in the season. Justin Herbert gets a good, finally gets another win against Patrick Mahomes. That would be nice. And then they take on the Buccaneers. I think they could win that game. That's could be a toss up. I would lean Chargers. I'd lead Chargers again in Week 16 against the Broncos. Again, I just don't really think the Broncos are going to be very good. Again, that's another quarterback situation. I don't know what's going to happen. Who's going to be the starter? I mean, are we going to see all the quarterbacks play between Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, and Bo Nix? So, and then Week 17 they take on the Patriots. That was a very low-scoring game last year. What was it, 6-0? I mean, I don't think we're going to see that. I'd give the Chargers the edge in that game, and then I'd say they lose to the Raiders in Week 18. So, I had them losing to the Steelers and the Chiefs. Had them losing to the Bengals and the Ravens. Losing to the Raiders. The Browns. Yeah, I mean, and then I said Kirk Cousins as well. So yeah, I got them at around 9 wins. I don't want to give them too many wins because, again, this is, a new regime. Now, wherever Harbaugh goes, the team usually does well. And, there are some question marks. Who's going to step up and be that number one pass catcher in this offense? Because you got a lot of young guys. And, running the football is going to be something that they're going to emphasize here, with J.K.Dobbins and Gus Edwards. But you got Justin Herbert, and I think as long as you got him and he's healthy, he got hurt late in the season, the thumb injury, I think the Chargers are going to be a competitive team. I think for me, the defense has to be better. If the defense, could be a better unit in 2024, the Chargers are going to win going to win more games, and they're going to benefit from that. So, I think 9 wins is fair. I think they could get to around that. Maybe they sneak in, be one of the last wild card teams. This is a very competitive conference. I mean, I say this over and over again, but I know you guys probably get sick of me saying it, but it is a very competitive conference. I don't think there's a lot of bad teams in this conference. I think, you can make a case for pretty much every team in the AFC to make the playoffs. Pretty much every team. I'm not going to say every single team has a chance, but I think you can. The Broncos are one of those teams that I don't think really have a shot. But, I think 3 of the 4 teams in the AFC West, I think they got a shot. The Raiders, they had, they finished 8-9 after getting off to a rough start. And now you bring in Gardner Minshew, who, the Colts came close to making the playoffs with him as the starting quarterback last year when Anthony Richardson went down. And I like the weapons they have on offense. The defense is playing better. So you got them, and then you got the Chargers. I mean, the Chiefs are going to be there, but yeah, the Chargers with Harbaugh and a healthy Justin Herbert, I feel like this team has a chance to make the playoffs year one with Harbaugh. Now, I think the following year, next year, you could look at them as, being even better. This is kind of that year where, see how it goes, and you go from there. I don't expect this team to be a 5-win team. I think a lot of that had to do with injuries last year. Again, Justin Herbert going down. If he was healthy, they probably win, a couple more games But they also just, gave up on their head coach against the Raiders on that Thursday night. I mean, when you're giving up 60-plus points, to Aiden O'Connell as a starting quarterback, yeah, it looks bad. But that's what ended up happening. So, but that's what I think. I think 9 wins. I think that's fair. I'm not going to sit here and be like they're a 12-win team with Harbaugh right off the bat. I don't think so. I think that, 9 wins is fair. And like I said, maybe they get in as a wild card. I'm curious to see who kind of steps up and is that leading pass catcher in this offense. How are they going to be running the football with the Ravens backfield, basically? Is Quentin Johnston going to have a better sophomore season than he did his rookie season? Because drops were a problem for him last year. But I like I said, I think as long as you got Justin Herbert, I think their offense is gonna be. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be like a top 10 offense. I mean, maybe it could be borderline, but I think this offense will be good. I think they'll be able to run the football. Like I said, Herbert's gonna put up good numbers, and they're gonna win some football games. So we'll see how it goes. But let me know what you guys think. How many games do you think the Chargers will win in 2024? Like I said, I think 9-8 is fair for them. So before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, that is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we get back from our second break of the show, we will talk about Tua Tagovailoa, more on the contract negotiations, him trying to get a new deal. We'll discuss that, where that currently stands when we return from our second break of the show. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.